Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to return to Coilou on the Orkney Islands in the north of Scotland. So for this one we're going to have a look at one of the Orkney Brewery beers, as you may have guessed, and we're having a taste of the Red McGregor, which is a 4% Scottish red ale. So it should be very, very nice actually. It was rated 78 overall on Rate Beer and 98 within the style, although they did list this one as an ESB kind of premium bitter thing, but it should be very nice. I remember this brewery being very solid. Probably my favourite beers that I've had from these guys were the Northern Light, which is a golden ale, and also the Dark Island, which is a really just quite interesting kind of brown ale, dark ale sort of thing. It's a very, very nice beer actually, and this is one of the last of the kind of core range of beers that I've still to try from these guys, and I enjoy a red ale, so I'm really looking forward to trying this one for you on the channel today. So I hope you guys enjoy the review. But anyway, as is usual with my beer reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you do want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews I've done from Orkney Brewery before. This is review number 5 or 6 I think, and I probably will add more in the near future. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do subscribe to the channel, and please do have a look at some of my other beer reviews. The whole channel is based on a geography tagging system, so if you're interested in beer from a particular country, state or city, you can search for it that way through the channel, and please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. Your input and your support of the channel is always hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about the Orkney Brewery and the Orkney Islands, of course. So the Orkney Islands are the first set of islands just off the north coast of Scotland. Supposed to be very beautiful in fact, but I've never actually been up there. But Orkney and Shetland both have a significant Norse heritage in fact. And a lot of that is just due to the fact that they only became Scottish in maybe the 1450s or 1460s actually. They were part of a dowry when I think it was a Danish princess married the Scottish king or something like that. But they've only been Scottish for a couple of hundred years, so there's many people called Magnus. The cathedrals in the streets all have Norse names as well, and it's famous of course for the Skara Brae Neolithic sites, 5,000 years old, only revealed in the 1850s because a storm ripped up the ground and then they discovered this whole complex of things, but one of the best preserved Neolithical sites in all of Europe. So Shetland and Orkney are definitely places that you want to check out. In fact, the Northern Islands are supposed to be very, very beautiful. But anyway, to tell you a bit about the brewery actually, the brewery is currently owned by Norman Sinclair, who's an award-winning hotelier. He's got various properties all throughout Scotland, but he's actually from Orkney, although he moved to Fort William in the Highlands at a very young age and worked in his family's aluminium business. But in 2006 he actually set up his company called Sinclair Breweries Limited, which subsequently acquired 2 breweries, and this was the Orkney Brewery and also the Atlas Brewery. The Orkney Brewery was founded back in March 1988 by Roger White at the old schoolhouse in Sandwick in Orkney and up in the islands, which makes it one of the older craft breweries in Scotland in fact. But the Atlas Brewery was founded in 2002 by Neil Cotton, and this one merged with Orkney in 2004 under the name Highlands and Islands Breweries. But this came about due to the retirement of Roger White and then the subsequent acquisition of shares by Atlas Brewery. Neil Cotton actually served as the managing director of Highlands and Islands Breweries for a period of time, and he drove a series of changes at the Orkney Brewery, but this company was subsequently purchased by Sinclair Breweries in 2006, and it has remained in this charge for the last 10 years. But this brewery is still based in the old schoolhouse in Coilou, just a mile from the Neolithic sites that I was talking about, Skara Brae, and they've currently got 3 employees who are involved in the brewing of the beer. Head brewer Andrew Fulton, who's a graduate of the Heriot Watt brewing programme, produced a lot of good brewers in Scotland actually. He joined the company back in 1994. There's also Kevin Sarling, who's from South London. He was involved in transport before he joined the brewery in 2001. And there's also Magnus Flett, who's a former farmer from Harry, who joined the company in 2001 as well. But these guys are a very solid brewery. They've got a range of about 6 or 7 different beers. I've reviewed most of them for you here on the channel. I still need to do the Skull Splitter and also the Orkney Gold as well, which is a more recent one. But as I say, my favourite beers from this brewery are probably Dark Island and also the Northern Light. The name went right out my head there, and the Dragon Head is quite a nice stout from these guys as well actually. That's another good beer. They've also got the Corncrake Ale and a couple of other ones too, but these beers are definitely worth checking out, and I think you can get them abroad. I'm sure I saw the Orkney beers in Australia actually when I was there, so if you're watching outside of Scotland, this is a brewery that you really should check out. My personal recommendation would be either Dark Island or Northern Light. Just depends whether you like a dark beer or whether you enjoy a nice golden ale. But yeah, let's actually get on to the tasting of this beer itself. So as I told you at the start of the video, this one is a 4% red ale. It's called Red McGregor, of course. It says on the back, Red McGregor is a unique and award-winning beer. With a delicate and sophisticated yet robust flavour, Red McGregor is a celebration of one of Scotland's true historic heroes. The Orkney Brewery beers are brewed in tune with the ecology of our beautiful corner of the Northern Isles. So yeah, it should be quite nice. The badge on this one has actually changed a little bit. I'm sure there's one of these that has a slightly different label. You can see here it's a kind of coastline that is on the label, but I'm sure there's one that actually has a clansman, obviously referring to the Red McGregor actually. I don't know too much about him in fact, but there is another one of these beers that has him on the label rather than that coastline there. And I think there is actually a stronger version of this one at some point too. I'm sure I've seen that when I've been abroad actually. But this one says best before October 2017. There you can see the Orkney Brewery symbol just on the bottle cap. You can also see it just on the top of the label there. I'll just put that in the light so that you can see it. But overall it should be very nice. 4% Scottish red ale, or extra special bitter as they're calling it on Rate Beer. So yeah, nice smoky opening on this one, and we'll get it out and into the glass. But these beers, one of the things I've always noticed with this brewery when I've tried their beers, you can taste a little bit of difference in the water that you get from the Northern Islands, or the Northern Isles I should say. I've been spending too much time out of Scotland of course, and losing my local dialect a little bit. But the water, you really can taste the quality, and it's one of the things, a lot of people say that water doesn't really affect the brew, and I think people that say that don't really know what they're talking about. If you have more mineral content in the beer, it does kind of affect the taste, and it can also give you some things with the brewing as well. There are conditions there, it's just a chemical fact. We always looked at that when we did toxicology, when I was studying chemistry. So it definitely can affect the brew. But as you can see, this beer is poured a lovely kind of ruby red colour. You can see that just as I hold the light up to this one here. It looks absolutely lovely. It's kind of I'd say it's a kind of coppery ruby red. It is clear. I'm not sure how well you can see that. If I put my fingers behind the glass there, you can see that it is transparent. There was a solid 2 fingers of a kind of creamy, slightly beigey coloured head in this one, but it looks very, very nice. Some big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, but quite a few little ones just going up towards the bottom of the head there. So let's have a proper look at the aroma of this beer before we have a go at the tasting of it. So yeah, the first thing you're going to notice about this beer is that it is quite caramelly. You know, you've got a nice kind of caramelly, bready and slightly biscuity malt base coming out of this one. Maybe there's a bit of sort of nutty, almost woody character coming out of the beer as well. And of course you can pick up some of the red fruits. There is an element of a kind of reddy fruit coming out of this beer, like figs, or maybe not quite raisins, but a kind of figgy or almost Haribo, kind of candied strawberry sort of note coming out of this beer. It does smell nice. But you've got some grassy hops, a little bit of floral character. It's a bit earthy too, but really this aroma for me, it leans far more towards the malts. It's quite caramelly, a bit of toasty character in there too, some kind of graininess, some bready sort of biscuity thing going on. Maybe a bit of nutty or woody character as well. You can get a little bit of hops, earthy, grassy, slightly floral like I said, and there's some sort of juicy, almost figgy or kind of candied strawberry kind of thing going on in this one. You can definitely pick up that, but it smells really nice, so we'll have a go at this and see how we get on. So this one is the Red McGregor, one of the beers from the Orkney Brewery, part of the Sinclair Breweries group, up in Coyloo on the Orkney Isles in Scotland. Slàinte. Oh yeah, no, that's a pretty good beer. That is a very solid beer. That's different from the other ones that they do as well. You know, a lot of breweries, there are many breweries who produce all these different beer styles, but they all are, you know, they all can be very similar even though they are completely different styles. But one thing that I always like about the Orkney Brewery is the taste profiles have a big difference between them, and this one tastes different from the other beers that I've tried from this brewery before, and quite significantly. You know, I've never really been a kind of fan of the sort of English bitter beers. I've never really enjoyed them that much. When it comes to English beers, I always enjoy the milds and the porters and the things like that. But if this one is supposed to be a kind of English style bitter, but it's probably more of a Scottish red ale actually. It does taste more like a Scottish red ale. I don't know why Rate Beer is saying this one is a bitter, because it's definitely more like a Scottish red ale. They've done it pretty damn well actually. This is a good beer. If you like the Scottish red ales, you will certainly enjoy this one. It's got a good bout of flavour, but a lot of these kind of bitter, some of the Scottish red ales I've tried as well, they've been really lacking in flavour. But this one certainly does that, and I wouldn't expect anything less of Orkney Brewery. There's a number of breweries in Scotland as well who brew these more kind of traditional style beers, and the Orkney Brewery probably do fit that that kind of mantra, I guess you would say. These guys are more of a traditional brewery than the sort of new wave American style brewery, but these guys do the older styles of beer very, very well. A lot of the breweries that stick to that mantra, there's many of them kind of their beers, they just don't have as much kind of flavour as they should, or a lot of the beers end up tasting very similar. But that's certainly not the case with Orkney Brewery. These guys do some pretty awesome brews. This one is a very solid beer as well. In the middle of the palate you've got a nice kind of bready malt base. It almost tastes a little bit like brown bread in fact. That goes right across the middle of your palate. On top of that you're getting some of the sweeter aspects. You can feel the biscuity grainy character and some of the richer caramel sweetness coming out of this one. There is a good bit of cereal dryness in there, and you can feel that building as you drink more and more of this beer. It's really nicely done. I want to say there's a bit of nutty and woody character in the middle of the beer there as well. But overall, you know, you would expect this as a Scottish red ale. You would expect this to be a bit more on the malty side of things, and it certainly is that. But it does have a fair wee bit of hoppy character as well. Yeah, no, it is definitely more leaning towards the malty side of things. With this one, it's got a nice kind of almost earthy hop character to it actually. In the back corner of the palate you've got a nice dark, slightly dry earthiness, and as you come further forward you can feel an element of a slightly floral character there, and it's a bit more grassy around the front curve of the tongue. But what's interesting about this one is that the earthiness and the floral character really combine in this, and you can feel that all the way around the edge of the tongue. It's really nicely done. You know, I've never quite had a beer that's had that earthy character coming all the way forward from the hops on your palate. The earthiness I always find sticks to the back of the palate, but the flavours in this beer come out really nicely actually. But that's good. Just behind the front curve of the tongue too, you can get a little bit of a candied kind of red fruit ester, but that's very, very minimal. It really is. The fruity character in this one for me isn't too prominent. The main focus of this one is the earthy hops and also that malt base as well. The fruity character really does take a back seat in this beer. In fairness, when I'm taking more and more of this beer in, I can see why Rate Beer has listed it as a sort of ESB or premium bitter beer. But for me it's more like a Scottish red ale. The malt base in this one, where it's a bit sweeter and more caramelly, is really what sets it apart, and some of the earthy hop is another kind of traditional characteristic of these red beers, and it works really well in this one. This is a very good Scottish red ale. There's many breweries try this one and they just don't get it quite right, or they produce a beer that can be a little bit boring, but Orkney Brewery haven't done that in this case. You know, they've made a pretty solid beer. So if you like the Scottish red ales, then I would say have a go at this one. Any of their beers are pretty good. It just really depends on what kind of thing you personally enjoy. As I said, I like the Northern Light, and also the Dark Highland is good. The Dragon Head is a nice beer too, but for me that's a kind of taster, sort of sipper dessert beer. And I do need to have a go at Skull Splitter, because I do love a good Scotch ale actually, a 90 shilling. But this is another very, very solid beer from Orkney Brewery. I certainly wouldn't hesitate to have this again. So in terms of the mouthfeel, this one, I'd say this is mid-bodied. It's actually got a bit of an oily but and kind of creamy mouthfeel to it actually. That's one of the things I've always remembered about Orkney Brewery, is the beers are oily but yet kind of creamy at the same time. So these guys have got an interesting mouthfeel. There's a little bit of a prickle from the carbonation, but overall it is fairly smooth. This one's got a nice malt base to it. There's a bit of sweetness there, but really that builds into being a bit more of a dry malt base. You can really feel that kind of cereally character building in the middle of the palate as you progress to the aftertaste, and there's a bit of dry hoppy flavour around the edge of the tongue too. It's very nicely done, not too much in the way of fruity juiciness, very minimal like I said, but overall the main point about this review is that this is a pretty damn solid beer from Orkney Brewery once again. In terms of recommending this one to people, I would say if you like the traditional Scottish red ale, you will enjoy this one. If you enjoy the traditional kind of English bitter style beers, you're probably going to enjoy this as well. As I always say, in Scotland you've got the two types of brewery. You've got the more traditional wave of breweries, of which Orkney Island, they would fit into that particular mantra, and you have the American style breweries like Tempest and Brewdog, Fierce and things like that. These guys are more of a traditional style brewery, so if that's your sort of thing, then this is a brewery you definitely want to check out. As I say, the Dark Island and Northern Light are very good beers. All of the beers from this brewery are pretty solid, but just be aware when you try them, these are the more traditional styles of beers as opposed to the big American style beers that are popping up more and more in Scotland. But a very solid beer once again from Orkney Brewery. I wouldn't hesitate to drink this one again, although probably given the preference I would go for the Northern Light or the Dark Island. Those are really good beers, and I will review the Skull Splitter for you at some point in the near future. So yeah, the Red McGregor, very solid attempt at Scottish red ale. They've done this one really quite nicely actually, so give that a go if you enjoy these Scottish red ales or the English bitter style beer. So yeah, thank you once again for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know your thoughts on the brewery as well, always interesting to hear about that. You can check out my other Orkney reviews as well, you can check them. There's another brewery on the island called the Swanee Brewery as well, which I'll return to at some point soon. But yeah, you can check out all these reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. I hope I hear from you in the comments section below, but make sure you go and check out some of the Orkney Brewery's beers. They do some really nice, kind of solid, traditional style Scottish beers. Until the next time, it's Slangy just now, and I will catch you soon. Cheers.